The PSYOPs specialists must be proud of themselves. Their plan, of course, is to make us miserable and confused. They know that if we're uncertain and bewildered and frightened, we'll be more pliable, more manageable. And so, in countries all over the world, the psychologists working for the people pulling the strings are treating their citizens like prisoners of war. The brainwashing specialists have devised and are constantly updating a barefaced plan to create unending misery. They want us dominated, turned into slaves and controlled. They know that their plan will split the country, though not into equal parts. One part, inevitably the largest, will consist of the weaker, more gullible individuals who'll accept any lie they're told as long as it's told frequently and loudly. In the UK, these are the people who swallowed the global warming nonsense and who voted Remain because they believed the lies they were told about the European Union. The rebels, the resistance movement, the people who reject the lies and who see through their government's deceptions, are fewer in number but mostly quite determined. In the UK, these were mostly Brexit voters, and they mostly thought the climate change hysteria a massive piece of manipulated pseudoscience. They pose a considerable threat to the manipulators, and the plan now is to demonize them and isolate them and to turn the rest of the people against them, so that eventually they're broken and will do as they're told. So, for example, those who dutifully wear masks in shops will be praised as good citizens, as local heroes, as people who care for their community. There's no science showing that mask wearing is of any value, of course, but that doesn't worry the manipulators. Besides, anyone who's symptomatic and likely to spread any infection is already under strict instructions to isolate themselves. The dutiful citizens, compliant in every respect, have been co-opted as part-time police officers and guardians of the state. They've been officially instructed to shame those not wearing masks, to embarrass them and to make them feel uncomfortable and guilty. Everywhere you look, politicians, civil servants and the mass media are busy doing everything they can to create and spread new fears, while constantly making sure that the old fears are kept alive. In one of my brainwashing videos, I mentioned that in the guidance given to the British government, it was pointed out that a substantial number of people still did not feel sufficiently personally threatened. That's us they're talking about. We are not sufficiently personally threatened. Why would they want us to be so threatened? What ulterior motive could there possibly be? Could I have been right back in March when I suggested that one of the reasons for the hoax was to get us ready for the mandatory you-know-what? Their effective clinical winding up of the fear process has been designed to cause the greatest harm. It's a barefaced plan to cause misery and despair. When we're under stress, our bodies produce a hormone called cortisol. Lots of stress equals lots of cortisol in our bodies. And guess what? Patients who've got lots of cortisol in their bodies are more likely to die from COVID-19 than people who are calm and relaxed. And of course, since elderly, frail people with illnesses are more likely to die anyway, they're the ones who are going to be most affected by stress. So there we are. One of the reasons why the government's been deliberately terrifying us is because they know that we'll have more cortisol in our bodies, and they know that the extra cortisol will push those who have comorbidities over the edge. It's yet another type of mass murder. All these things are quite extraordinary. No Western democracy has ever worked against its own people so cruelly and with such steely determination. The immediate intention is to make us all frightened and miserable. It doesn't matter if the rebels appear feisty or even angry. The brainwashing specialists believe that in due course they will, if given a little time, succeed in breaking the free-thinking citizens. All around the world, people are fighting their own governments. In the UK, for example, Johnson, Hancock and Company have made themselves our enemies, just as Hitler and Company were our enemies in 1939 and the 40s. Johnson seems to me a gullible, simple-minded buffoon who's dancing on the end of a piece of string being jiggled by Cummings. Hancock seems to me to be just a pompous, half-witted prefect who'd be out of depth if he were a small-town mayor. But they have behind them the billionaire manipulators, global organizations, the Bilderbergers, and the might of the world's media. Before them, doing the dirty work for them on a day-to-day basis, they have a small army of common-purpose trained bureaucrats. The thought is always of the state. Everything is done in the name of collectivism. Individual and democracy are as out of date as cloche hats and feather boas. The only hope for us, the rebels, is that we can succeed in converting some of the fearful and dutiful citizens to our point of view. To do that, we must counter the misinformation as best we can. We have to hope that in the fullness of time we'll be able to gather to our side enough citizens so that we become a majority, or at the very least a sizable and vocal minority. It's tricky, of course, and it's going to get ever more difficult, because those of us who see through the absurd lies and spot the manipulations are facing the entire might of the state apparatus, combined with and supported by a compliant media which has willingly suppressed the truth. The reporting of this massive takeover of the world has been a disgrace. The mass market media has been bought and simply does its best to ramp up the fear and drive the yearning for a vaccine as the only way out of the chaos. The media have been paid to promote the lies, and by slanting the news and consistently repeating the same threats, they're doing their job very effectively. The British Broadcasting Corporation has always been a propaganda machine and an utter disgrace, as untrustworthy as a junkyard dog, but I'm surprised at how cheaply the rest of the mainstream journalists have been bought. During the lockdown, newspapers and magazines were full of articles by journalists writing about their experiences under house arrest. They described how brave and resourceful they were. They gave us intimate details of their dinner parties and productive business meetings conducted by Zoom. They showed us film of their silly dances, and they gave us lists of all the books they'd read, the films they'd seen, and the foreign languages they'd learned. They wrote about the coronavirus crime as though it had been a great adventure, a weekend's glamping expedition in darkest Snowdonia, or a sleepover with chums. Now the same writers are showing us how to turn our masks into fashion accessories. They're trying to normalise the distinctly abnormal. They're pouring verbal acid on anyone who goes into a shop without a mask. They say nothing about the contradictions, the absurdities, and the way the science is being ignored whenever it's considered inconvenient. They lie about the dissenters, and when that doesn't seem to be working, they simply ignore whatever truths are unearthed. The only radio show I've appeared on for years is the Richie Allen Show, a beacon of honesty in a wilderness of deceit. Each morning I wake up thinking I must have imagined what's been happening, and then I realise that I haven't been living in a bad science fiction movie. The nightmare in which we're living is true. But is this purgatory or some dark hinterland between life and death? I wonder often how many million people are contemplating suicide as the only way out of this obscene piece of global manipulation. The mass media announced with great excitement that retail sales had rebounded since the end of the lockdown. Imagine that. Shops are open and people can leave their homes, and the chattering classes are surprised, amazed and delighted that retail sales have gone up a little bit. The plan, of course, is to get rid of all high street shops and shopping centres so that we do all our shopping online. In the UK, planning laws have been changed to make it easy to turn a shop into flats. The fact is that the social distancing will help destroy bricks and mortar shops, the absurd markings on the floor, the inconvenient one-way systems which vary from the impractical to the incomprehensible to the downright annoying, the bottles of hand sanitizer placed by the door with the command that the goo be used before entering, the queues outside as shop staff limit the number of customers within the shop, the growing refusal to accept cash, with advice being given to shops on how to take advantage of all the ways to sell things without using cash. I predict, by the way, that the one country in the world where cash will remain popular may well be Colombia, where some businessmen, I'm told, have large stocks of cash to get rid of. And then there's the masks. Oh yes, those nasty little masks. There are some shop staff who now refuse entry to those not wearing masks. Others insist on questioning customers, demanding details of their medical history. It's impertinent, it's humiliating, and it's going to drive shoppers away. Shop owners and shop assistants who don't realise what's happening will be closed before Christmas. When you shop online, of course, there are no queues, no social distancing commands, no nasty skin sanitizer to give you a nasty skin rash, and no need for a mask. You have to pay by card, it's true, but you probably have to pay by card in a shop now. And at home, you can make yourself a coffee whenever you feel like one. The global reset requires us all to do our shopping online, and the plan is to get rid of all small businesses, especially shops. It's working, damn it. Even charity shops are closing their doors. Incidentally, an aside, some shop assistants have been ordered by their bosses to wear masks, and some have been very distressed, unable to breathe, especially on warm days. 8 hours in a mask is not pleasant. I can't believe this is legal. I strongly suggest that assistants told that they must wear masks contact their trade union for clarification. And there's no room for fun in our future either. That's why the rules governing pubs and restaurants are so absurd. Anyone wanting to visit a pub will be told to order their drink on a phone app, so the government will know what you order. Presumably those of us who wouldn't know an app if it stood up and barked will have to do without. In hotels, guests will be advised to have meals delivered by room service. Oh, what a lot of fun holidays and weekend breaks will be. I feel for all those folk who love putting on posh clothes for dinner, getting all spruced up to sit on the bed to eat your dinner from a tray just won't be the same. There's no room for pleasure in the new world order. We'll be living in high-rise apartments close to our employment. That's the plan. Our shopping will be delivered. That's the plan. Our entertainment will be provided by the box in the corner of the room. No laughing and definitely no thinking. If you think I'm exaggerating, take a look at Agenda 21 and the plans for the global reset. It's absolutely terrifying. And the same sort of things are happening everywhere. In India, over 122 million people lost their jobs in the month of April alone. In Qatar, there was a penalty of 3 years in prison for not wearing a face mask in public. Who can keep up? And in Panama, where the lockdown allows men and women to leave their homes on alternate days, transgender citizens were apparently complaining they couldn't go out on either day. If I put this stuff in a novel, I'd be stoned to death by the readers. It sounds crazy, but it's all true. A few years ago, there were lots of threats about ID cards and iris scans being introduced. I wrote about them and helped campaign against them. The public thought about it, considered the evidence, and said a very loud, no, thank you. We need some of that good sense and determination again. They want to destroy freedom and democracy. Well, we can't let the bastards win. We're the resistance. If you meet people who aren't yet on our side, please ask them to watch my video entitled "We Are the Victims of the Greatest Crime in History." It's a good introduction to the whole bizarre story from the beginning up until today. It would help enormously if you'd press the thumbs up button and if possible leave a small comment. We haven't monetized this channel and there are no advertisements and no sponsors, nor will there ever be. Clicking the thumbs up button simply helps to keep the video and the channel visible so that as many people as possible can find it. Thanks for watching An Old Man in a Chair, and thank you for all your support and encouragement. Please copy and share the videos on Facebook, Twitter, BitChute and other platforms. Let's spread the truth. If you'd like to put on a translation, that would be great. If my videos disappear, please go to vernoncoleman.com where you can find transcripts, including transcripts of the banned videos. There are many other articles there too. The website's got no ads and no sponsors. If you'd like to see more videos from me, please subscribe to the channel because the videos aren't always easy to find. If you visit mainstream media, please put on messages asking readers to watch these videos to find the truth. Although it may feel like it at times, please remember that you're not alone. More and more people are waking up to the truth, and together we will win this war. Thank you for watching An Old Man in a Chair.